Why isn't it all right for black women to be angry? Why is it necessary for them to pretend that it doesn't hurt? And that's what they do all day, every day, in order to get along with people like you.
Let's talk with Andrew Love.
Benjamin Franklin said, "Well, it's your." I think it was Benjamin Franklin. Well, it's your democracy if you can keep it, and we kept it for a lot of years. But now we are losing it because the schools are not teaching history. And it's worse now than it was before, because now the true history you don't dare teach because it'll make those white children feel guilty. We mustn't make any white children feel guilty. Well, what we must make children feel is not white and not black and not red and not yellow. It's time to make those white children realize they don't exist. I can tell where you can tell where this color is on my shirt. You see this flower? That flower is white. This finger is not. The business of whiteness and blackness has been used to keep a whole lot of people down and to keep some other people up who don't deserve to be up because they do not have the skills, the talents, the abilities, or the ambition to do what they say they are able to do. So what do? They hire other people to do it, and they keep them they keep themselves from admitting the brilliance of those that they are putting in to do those jobs because they don't want to pay the right amount of money to have those jobs done. This
sounds like slavery.
It is a form of slavery. It is slavery.
Hey, it's what it is, but we don't call it slavery. We call it capitalism.
Capitalism.
What we should call it is, but there's nothing wrong with capitalism as long as it isn't based on skin color. But in this country, it is. And when you have somebody who says, after a riot by a bunch of Proud Boys and KKK boys and that bunch, says there are good people on both sides. There are not good people on both sides when the people on one side are trying to overturn the government of the United States. Those are not good people. Those are people who are being led by somebody who is ignorant and childlike and determined to be king. Now, he hasn't gone through the necessary steps to be king, but he thinks he can buy the throne.
He's got a long way to go.
What we have to do is guarantee that people do not allow him to buy the throne.
That's going to
take all of us.
I have a question, Ms. Jane. I know you've seen on the news, the supporters and stuff know that this case going around Trump and everything. Well, what do you think about these people who, I don't understand this, setting themselves on fire? I don't know. Well, that's a serious program to set yourself on fire from a trial. Can you just explain that mindset?
Well,
please?
if you have such a mental problem that you will set yourself on fire, that should tell you something about the mentality of those who follow a Donald Trump. If the people who follow him are the kind who will set themselves on fire, it means they have a mental problem. Nobody without a mental problem sets himself on fire. You know that as well as I do. Nobody without a mental problem allows somebody who has been a rapist and a thief and all kinds of ugly things, and the Constitution says you will not be allowed to be president of the United States if you have done these things, and he's done all of them. And yet people are going to vote for him. So I think what we're dealing with is a group of people. Number one, most of them haven't been in the military. They haven't fought in a war to keep the world safe from communism or Hitlerism, Nazism, any of those things. The people who are served in the military haven't had to risk their lives in order to be paid to keep the country safe. The whole different. See, I remember I was born in 1933. I watched Adolf Hitler and my father's reaction to him for 12 years, from 33 to 45. When Donald Trump was elected, I listened to his statement when he was inaugurated, and I thought, my God, this is Hitlerian. And then I said, Jane, you're imagining that. You're just exaggerating it. That's not what's happening. And then I read, a few years ago, I read this book. Have you read it? When at times the mob is swayed.
No,
Let
never
me
heard of it.
read just a. You have it? You have it already?
No, ma'am.
Well, listen to this. When I read this, I thought, Donald Trump's channeling of Adolf Hitler's rhetorical techniques is profoundly dangerous to American democracy, not because of Trump's ideas, wrong-headed as many may be, his ignorance, profound as it is, or his disdain for people who do not look or sound just like him, ugly, as he makes it appear. It is dangerous because the 44th president, by following Hitler's playbook, risks unleashing, and this is what he's doing, unleashing forces of ignorance, anger, misogyny, racism, xenophobia, selfishness, bigotry, fear, and greed that, once set free, can unravel the social fabric of a nation. Now listen to this. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Trump is so adept at exploiting fear and inventing scapegoats. He studied at the feet of the master. We know from Ivana Trump's now sealed testimony at Trump's first divorce trial, backed up by her lawyer, Michael Kennedy, and from the president himself, that for years, a younger Donald Trump slept with a book of Adolf Hitler's collected political speeches published in 1941 as My New Order in a locked cabinet at his bedside. Ugly and as appalling as they are, those speeches are masterpieces of demagogic manipulation. He learned how he's going to govern from Adolf Hitler. It wasn't my imagination. He was talking right out of Adolf Hitler's playbook. Give Trump credit. He does his homework. He did his homework well and became the 21st century of master of divisive rhetoric. You have to read this book. You have to understand that what Donald Trump is doing is what he learned from Adolf Hitler, and it was Adolf Hitler's absolute determination to destroy every Jewish person, every person who is other than what he was sexually, every person who was of a different color, every person who didn't look or act or talk like he did. And that's exactly what's going on right now.
And he says that, conservatives refer to the rise of immigrants as an invasion. Trump says they are disease criminals and rapists poisoning the blood of America.
Well, but you see, he knows because his grandfather was an immigrant. That tells you something about his grandfather, doesn't it? He must have been a murderer, racist, and must have been here to destroy the country. You see, when he talks, he doesn't make any sense because he has no sense. And he has no learning. He only thinks in terms of money and getting it, but he doesn't know how to keep it. And he doesn't know how to spend it properly. But he does know how to steal it from other people.
So what is
the question? What was his daddy background a little bit? I think daddy have a not so good background as well, if I'm mistaken. Trump's father, where he got his money.
I don't know where he got his money, but I suspect he got a lot of it from chicanery because he has declared bankruptcy how many times?
I don't know, 18, so that was a lot.
Well, I don't think it's that many, but I think it's way too many for somebody who wants to tell the rest of us how the United States economy should work. If you can't do the right thing with your own finances, what makes you think that he can do the finances of this nation and do it right? It is so. And look at the number of his cohorts who are in jail. I mean, anyway, let's talk about something sensible, shall we?
Well, I just wanted to say one more thing and go back to how he somehow has gotten the ability to ignite this fear, which is also keeping everything going. Is there an antidote for a politics of fear, as you see it?
Yeah.
Is there, like, because
Of
got that
of
down.
course, this is the politics of fear. If we don't do it to them, they're going to do it to us. So we're going to do it first.
Mm.
And I am your retribution. Why would we need somebody for our retribution unless we had been done badly to? We haven't been done badly to by the government, except if you're a person of color and if you're a woman. And if you're a woman of color, you're up that well-known tributary without any means of transportation, and you know that, and so do I. But it was going to be better, and it had started to be better, and it could be better. And if we all pay attention and refuse to allow him what he said happened when Joe Biden got elected. He said that what happened was all those votes were miscounted, and all the ugly things that he said had happened to get Joe Biden elected. You know what he has in mind? He's going to do all those ugly things that he accused the Democrats of doing in order to get himself elected. We have 8 months. We have 8 months to see to it that he doesn't get to do what he has planned. But it's going to take working together. And right now, we are hearing that, well, you know, the Black community is turning to Donald Trump because they think he's done more for them than Joe Biden has. They need to take another look at what Joe Biden has done for all of us and what Donald Trump did before Joe Biden and what he will do again after Joe Biden. People need to realize that Donald Trump is after all, when a man who wants to be president or who is president says we're going to put a wall along the southern border of the United States so that those brown-skinned people can come in here because brown-skinned people reproduce too rapidly. You realize what he was saying? He's afraid he's going to be outnumbered by brown-skinned people. And when he closes all the Planned Parenthood clinics, because he's afraid that what's going on in Planned Parenthood clinics is white women are getting abortions, and we can have those babies live if they didn't have those Planned Parenthood clinics. Close the Planned Parenthood clinics. Women go to Planned Parenthood clinics for a lot of things, mostly not abortion. If he thinks for 1 minute that he can keep women from having abortion by passing a law, he needs to take another look. He needs to look at the 20s up to the 60s and see how many people had abortions and got them done and got them done safely and lived through it and did not produce more white babies. He needs to realize, he needs to realize that I know that I've been banned on college and university campuses.
I was going to go back to
we'll go back to that.
I want to go back to that. Well, how did you get banned? What would they do that?
Put it out there. Tell us.
I can't. Why in the world would anybody ban me just because, as I said?
I don't know. I guess you're the wrong complexion today.
There are no white people. There are no black. What?
I guess you're the wrong complexion all of a sudden.
I tell you, this whole thing is so absolutely asinine and so obvious, and I can't understand how any woman of any shade of brown could possibly vote for a man who wants to take you back to the days when women's place was in the home. You stay home, you have babies 1 a year, and you take care of the house and you satisfy your husband. You don't have to do anything else. I don't think you're going to be able to take black women back to that. In fact, I know you aren't. They are
don't pay enough.
Yeah. No way they're going to go back to being. Yeah, no, we're not. Women generally aren't going to go back to being treated like paid servants who aren't paid very well.
But not only that, like a lot of women and women of color are they're head of their households. So there's no way that
of course,
exactly that
of course they're head of their house. Donald Trump doesn't want it that way. He doesn't want women to be head of anything. He wants women to be, broke, barefoot, and pregnant if they're white. And if they aren't white, he wants them not to be here. He just wants them not in the United States of America. What he doesn't realize, and what a whole lot of people don't realize, is that only 15 to 18% of the human population of the earth is classified as white. 15 to 18%. That's a fact.
Wow.
Now, the United States, yeah. Right now, people who are classified as white are more than 15 to 18% of the United States, but they won't be in 20 years. You need to realize that. And that is why pale, stale males are scared to.
And they're not, and there's no pure white, like really. So it's like they're just classifying, excuse me, they're just classifying as that.
Well, they're classifying based on what Torquemada said in the 1500s. And see, the whole thing is just an idiotic attempt to go back to the past where none of us want to be. I don't want to go back to the past. I don't want to go back into the kitchen. I don't want to go back to men dying at the age of 45 because they've been overworked. I'm sorry my husband died when he did, but it wasn't because I overworked him. It was because he didn't listen. I told him what to do and he didn't listen. I'm sorry about that.
They just don't listen.
Yeah, that's right. They aren't taught to listen. They're taught to speak.
Right.
The rest of us are taught to listen. And most of them don't know how to listen. And when look, it's not that I'm anti-male. I love men. Oh my God.
Answers?
Some of my damn. If a man walks by me smelling like Old Spice deodorant, I'm going to follow him all the way down the street.
Old Spice.
I like men in their proper place, but it is not at the head of the table all the time.
Right. Especially not in today's society.
And it's not the only one bringing in the money to finance the house. And it's not doing jobs that nobody else wants to do. And it's not taking all the responsibility while the female sits and looks, simple and timid. And come on, give me a break.
No, that's not the world we live in anymore. No, absolutely not.
But you see, Black women never did live in that world.
Right, that part. We always had to put our fingers to the bone, to the white meat. Like
that's right. And so-called white women could depend on some Black woman coming in and raising her child, and serving as the nurse to that child, and serving as the person who would be responsible for, breastfeeding the whole bit, because they were our property and they were properly equipped for that, and white women didn't have to do it. And now we're down to the point where white women want to have no more than 2 babies. So here it comes. In China, they had too many babies were being born. So then families couldn't have more than 1 baby in the neighborhood. It was, and women had to go in for gynecological exams periodically to be sure they weren't pregnant, because they were trying to cut down the number of children that were being born because they were overpopulated.
Bill Gates.
But now they need more people to work, and those children weren't born. So China's in a bad situation now. So here we are. You're going to live with the consequences of your behavior, people. And, when Native Americans make a decision, they think 7 generations into the future before they make a decision. When we so-called white folks make a decision, we think 15 minutes into the future. And then we make the decision. We do not think about the future. We only think about the present. And we ignore what the lessons that we could have learned from the past, because we think we know it all. Because after all, we decided that Jesus was white, right? Well,
what color is
Jesus, according to the Bible, he had kinky woolly hair and feet of bronze, and he was an Ethiopian Jew.
You know what they say, Jane? Oh, it don't. Every time I tell people, it ain't about color. It don't. Every time they come to Jesus, they always want to say, it don't matter. That's it. Why y'all change the color then if it didn't matter? That's the question. Why do you even Russia, Putin shows painters, everybody said Mary and Jesus black. I said, yeah, Catholic Church know Jesus Mary black. This ain't nothing new. They just hid it from you. You had them pictures of all the paintings, and the paintings they broke all the nose off because they had nose like mine. A lot of the people of color, black, and they didn't want no likeness. That's why all the paintings got nose off. A lot of people didn't know that clear patches and all those things. They didn't know those people black, but a lot of people say, oh, it don't matter no more. Why come it don't? I have a problem with that, Jane. I have a problem with that.
In the environment in which in the natural environment in which Jesus was born, it was natural to have. It was necessary to have broad noses because the air was so hot that you had to cool it before it got to your lungs. And the way that happened was you'd breathe in a huge amount of air, and it took a long time to get to your lungs, so it cooled off before it got to your lungs. People had kinky woolly hair because in some places they were in the jungle and they didn't dare have long hair to get caught in the undergrowth as they went through the jungle. Most of these physical differences are the result of your body's adaptation to the natural environment for hundreds of years. It has nothing to do with being God's chosen children. And Jesus was not white. It just, every time I used to go to church, but they kicked me out of the church in Osage. The minister came out and said, the minister came out one day and said, and I've been going to the church. The minister came out and said, Mrs. Elliott, could you do me a favor? I said, well, sure, I'd like to. What if I can? What do you need? He said, will you find a different place to worship on Sunday morning? I said, well, yeah, I can do that, but why would you ask me to do that? He said, because my parishioners don't like the words you use in the service. I said, when I call she, yes, he said, they don't like that. I said, wait a minute. For me, God is a spirit and has neither gender nor color. He said, well, that's not the way, that's not what our people believe. And we live next door to a little, what used to be a church that's been closed for years, so I bought it. And he said, you got a church right next door. Why don't you start a church of your own? I said, maybe I will. Would you like to join? He said, no, I don't want to join your church. And he, I tell you.
Mr. I gotta ask you a question. I was talking a little bit about Terry about the translation, mistranslation of what they call the Bible in order to control people.
Look, if the Bible was written by men, they only allow, what is there, one book that was written by women?
As they say, Ruth. That's let you know something right there, how they really feel about women. And there was many books that was thrown away, from my understanding. There was over hundreds of books, they canonical book, and they threw them away. In my understanding, they translate them away where, I'll tell Terry, where they could use to manipulate people. And I was telling them that they used to use these words, play on words in the Bible, say, slaves obey your master, which is in the New Testament, and how they use this to program their slaves and tell them, hey, pray for those who despitefully use you, all this subliminal to control people to not to fight for themselves. And this is some of the teachers, the way of they manipulate people with those scriptures and twist them up.
That's how they justified slavery. Like that's how they kept, and I know, and I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what they use. Because remember, black people couldn't read back in the time. A lot of them, they say, unless tell them how to read, they'll kill you. But that's how they would use those.
Racism and slavery are both very productive projects. They are very lucrative. People have made billions of dollars off using other people's bodies for various things. And that's what slavery is. And we are not going to put a stop to it as long as we can make money at it. Slavery will not end as long as people agree to be enslaved, or as long as people agree that there are people who deserve only to be enslaved. And as long as you can think of some people as good and pure and other people as savage and evil, that's how long you can perpetuate something like slavery. And that's how long you can perpetuate the idea of a white Jesus. And if people are dumb enough to go along and uneducated enough to go along, except in this country right now, we want education to teach all the things that I've just said as positives. Some of us are meant to serve. Others are meant to give orders. And we all know who are meant to serve and who are meant to tell us what to do. Things have changed drastically in my lifetime, because when television first came out, there were no families other than white families on television, unless they were like the Jeffersons, which were a joke. Or like, there were Amos and Andy. Remember Amos and Andy? You don't. Well, we had lots of stuff that was just, it nailed down the idea of the rightness of whiteness and the ignorance of anybody who was other than white.
Right.
Like Good Times.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, it corroborated the stereotypes.
Good Times was a stronghold.
First it created them, and then it perpetuated them. We created the stereotypes, and now we are determined to perpetuate them. And the people who are marching and saying, Jews will not replace us. Wait a minute, fools. Without Jews, there would be no Christians.
Mm.
Get
True.
over it. Blacks will not replace us. Without blacks, there would be no whites. Women will not be my boss. Look out, fools. Without women, there would be no men.
True.
Yeah, if we could just remember those three things and get rid of those isms, if we could get rid of racism, sexism, and age and racism, sex, and anti-Semitism, if we could get rid of those three, then we could spend all our time dealing with all the other isms like ageism and all the others that we have created to make some people feel good and other people feel bad.
I can ask you a question, John. I know it's kind of a little bit, maybe a little off top, but this is a quick, curious thing. What do you think the new idea of, I ain't trying to offend nobody, I'm going to put it out there, transsexual, you know, I'm a man or woman, identify. What is all this about? How you fit all that in? I mean, I know you're the man or woman, I don't know the in-between stuff, but what do you think about this trend, this new thing they pushing now, like I'm a woman, I'm a man, you know, people got transsexual people. What do you think about that? And how that's all this confusion, how all this tied into all the discrimination?
I think that what your body tells you, you should do. I think that the way your body is constructed and the way your mind is constructed is up to your mind and your body and nobody else's. And I think I have a right to be female and to want things that I think a female would want. I had a right to want a male who is totally male for a mate. If somebody else wants something else, that's up to them. It's none of my business what other people do with their bodies, as long as it isn't harming another human being. That's the point is, are they hurting some other human being? If they are, then what are they doing? Whatever they're doing has to be stopped. But if what they're doing is what is in their nature, then if their nature isn't the same as my nature, that doesn't mean that either of our natures are bad. We're just different. And I happen to appreciate and enjoy and recognize all kinds of differences. I think differences are wonderful. I think differences ought to be appreciated, ought to be recognized, ought to be celebrated. If you got a whole room full of heterosexuals, you've got a whole room full of heterosexuals. And it gets boring after a while. And then you bring in somebody who doesn't speak the way they do, doesn't think the way they do, doesn't walk the way they do. And then it's like, look at here's a whole new reality. Let's take a look at this. Doesn't mean you have to become this, but let's learn about this. And so I think it's extremely important that we learn about trans. I think if they are trans, they have a right to be trans. If they're gay, they have a right to be gay. If they are lesbian, they have a right to be lesbian. And some of my best friends are all those. And I have relatives that are those. And now all of a sudden, it's all right to be. That's a step forward. But we must not let these so-called evangelicals force us to take step backwards now, where those who are of a different sexual orientation are concerned. Your sexual orientation is your own business. And nobody has the right to tell you, you don't have the right to be like that. That if we would once decide to start teaching 3 R's of rights, respect, and responsibility in our schools, then we would have students coming out of schools who think everybody has the right to be as they are, and we have the responsibility to see to it that they are not denied that right.
Well,
I had to bring it in because
go ahead.
The reason I brought that in because every time, you know, these evangelical churches always get mixed in politics, it's always a trickery of they always try to tell people we're Christian and this how things should be. We need to make possible for gay people and this. There's more confusion between the people. They like to keep us distracted on what's really going on.
Keep us in fear.
Right. Of stupid stuff. But that's why I had to bring it to the forefront, because that always seems to tie a role somewhere into politics for some reason about people's sexuality, what they want, prefer, just like it does people of different color. And that's why I have to bring it up.
But you have to bring it up and you have to deal with it, because these very Christians who have studied the Bible supposedly evidently skipped the place where it says, judge not that ye be not judged. Now, if you're going to be a Christian, you can't be judging other people.